it was amazing hearing our dialogue in the game like seamlessly cut. And I just felt like, like watching it, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm like, yeah, we were there.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome on into an awesome episode of Behind the Voice. I'm joined by Elizabeth Saydah, who has played Riley in Oxenfree 2. I'm so much excited to talk about this game. Thank you so much for taking the time for joining.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is a pleasure to talk about this game. It's great.
Yeah, this is such a lovely game and such a interesting and fun game to play. But before we jump into the games, I just wanted to know, how has your this year been so far for you?
It's been great. Eagerly anticipating this, obviously. We had some delays
Yeah.
with when it was going to come out, and nobody kind of knew. So sort of that. And yeah, I'm just, I'm working. I don't just do video games. I do other voiceover work as well, commercials, corporate stuff, kind of across the board. So I've been keeping busy, and yeah, I got a couple other things in the pipeline, game wise. But yeah, it's been a good year so far. So
That
very exciting.
That is great. Yeah, you do a lot. You do voice acting in games, but games is one thing. You do movies and TV shows as well, and it's incredible. But before you went acting, I think you were more into sports. I believe so. How was
Yeah.
how was that part of your life? Like, what was that like?
Oh, you've done your research. Yeah, yeah, since a young age, I have been an athlete. Primarily, I was a tennis player, played in college, and a runner. I ran the 2 mile. So I felt really bad for my parents because I think the only people who run who enjoy the 2 mile less than the people running it are the people who have to watch it. Um, so yeah, so I yeah, that was sort of my life, and love sports. I think sports are like, for me, it just informed my whole life. Like, I'm competitive, hopefully in a healthy way. I'm pretty driven. I love the thrill of sports. So um, I feel like that's really benefited me in my acting career and voice career, especially because we have to be so like self-driven
Yeah.
and self-motivating. It can be really hard sometimes, choosing this life. So yeah, so sports 100%. I credit so much in just forming me as a human. So
Wow, that's
yeah,
cool. I remember
yeah.
sports. I was horrible at it. That's what I remember. I remember in schools where there would be like 100 meters race and stuff like that, and I would be horrible at it. So I had a great time with sports. But it's lovely. A lot of people I know, a lot of friends of mine who were so much into sports, and it's you keeps your. I
Yeah.
think your life gets better. I mean, at least you're in shape with sports.
Yeah,
That's one thing I would
that
say.
is true. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, you don't have to be good at sports to A, enjoy them, or B, benefit from them. Like,
Yeah.
and it's all relative, like I love tennis because you can play it when you're like 10 or 90 years old, and every
Yeah.
level, applies. So like there's no limit. So yeah, good or bad, sports are great for everybody, I think.
That's
And it gets you outside, so there's that.
Yeah, that gets you outside. Yeah, it's true. I wish I could get back into sports. So here where I am, the sports, especially at least cricket, is known a hell lot more. So I
Yeah.
used to play that a lot. We stopped, obviously, but like it was quite fun. That, and we used to play football a lot, but a little bit. But obviously, those two are
Yeah.
the sports that I really loved, and that interest went away,
Yeah.
and I jumped in here for some reason. But no, it's been fun overall. I love sports. Going back to sports has been a while, so I'm just very unathletic. But it's really cool.
Right.
To get into that zone.
Yeah. Oh, it is. You're right. It's exactly it. It's a zone, it's a mindset. I feel like, yeah, if you've played sports in any team sport, individual sport,
Yeah.
luckily I sort of played individual sports mostly, so I'm good at sort of being by myself as I'm standing in a 4x4 foot booth by myself. That was kind of important. But yeah, team sports, it's all good. It's just all good.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good or bad you are or your team is, so
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You can
true.
get either, and it's not too late. You can still get back out there, so
I hope
don't.
so. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. But what kind of came into mind? You're someone who's so much into sports. What kind of came into mind? Like let's move away from sports. Like, what was that kind of decision? Was there something that made you like, okay, maybe let's do something else?
Yeah, well, I think, the first and most important thing was I wasn't gonna be a professional, like, that I wasn't good I professionals are, that's still the next level,
Mm.
even having played in college and stuff like that, I was still way, way far away from, any, like, pro level, so that was first and foremost. I think, as much as I love sports, I think I think my competitive spirit, like, I had kind of an attitude problem. I was really hard on myself. I would go down these spirals of just like meltdowns,
Oh,
and it wasn't pretty all the time. And yeah, I just kind of realized my personality wasn't as much as I benefited from playing them, and I would never trade it. I don't think my personality suited that life. So, aside from the fact that just physically, I'm like 5'4",
mm.
I'm not a physical specimen, like, I watch tennis now and I'm like, "Oh my god, like, you guys are incredible." So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that became apparent, and I just, yeah, it stressed me out.
Mm.
Like, I realized I was a way better, practice player than I was a competitor,
Makes
and I
sense.
loved practicing, I loved just playing, and I didn't love the competition part because it was just I put all the pressure of the world on myself.
Mm.
So, yeah, so that's where I sorta started to look elsewhere, and that's how I got into theater and comedy, and in high school, really nurturing that side and finding that voice and, "Hey, maybe I can do this, and this is super fun," and I put pressure on myself, but I thrive under it
Mhm.
rather than melt down under it. So,
Oh my
that
god.
was yeah, that was that was the big difference, yeah.
That
Yeah, that
is
was a big aha moment, yeah.
that is so, oh my god, that's sort of kind of relatable. And so, like, where you're doing something that you like, you enjoy it, but
Yeah,
then later on you
yeah,
realize like, oh, that's the reason for the meltdown. That you're taking too
sure.
much, you're thinking too much, you're doing too much, and that's not really, you're not so happy with the way
Yeah,
you are. So like that's so
yeah,
much relatable right now. Oh my god. But
totally, yeah.
it's crazy, and it's good that you realize that, because sometimes a lot of people don't, when they keep on going,
Ex
maybe I'm supposed to do this,
yeah,
and they end up like,
exactly. Yeah,
regretting it.
yeah. And it's scary to
Yeah.
just sort of be like, "Okay, maybe this isn't for me," even though I've gone down this road and I've spent so many hours and just
Yeah.
so much time, trying to perfect this and hone this, and maybe it's not making me happy. And, I think it can apply to literally anything. I mean,
Yeah.
again, sports is just the perfect metaphor, analogy, whatever, for so many things in life. So, and to sort of respond we respond differently maybe to, like, a similar pressure, but under different circumstances, like, for example, for me, in on the tennis court, meltdown, in the booth or on stage, like, I rocked it, so I just it's pressure, and it's the same, but it's different, and because one thing makes me happy and one doesn't, so,
Yeah.
you just you respond differently, and it's kind of really crazy and fascinating, so, yeah, and probably a psychotherapy session in and of itself, but, yeah, it's
All right.
interesting for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'm glad that you got
Yeah.
into acting. But like, what was like your thing that interested you in acting? Was there something like, oh my god, that is fun. That's what I want to do. Was there a reason behind it to attach yourself to that?
Yeah, I think, honestly, just the first time I ever made, like, a group of people laugh, was like, "Oh, I like this. This is fun," and doing it, again, high school, I was so shy, I was such a wallflower, like, I was just, painfully shy, like, being on stage just petrified
Oh.
me, and then, I had that, like it sounds like such a cliched story, but I had that amazing drama teacher who was like, "Hey, just try this," and, like, kinda pushed me out there, and, I did this audition for, a comedic character, and I just came up with this character on the spot, and everybody laughed, and I was so scared, but it was just like, "Oh, okay, so, like, this is a new feeling,
Yeah.
and this feels doable and fun." And so, yeah, I kind of feel like that was the first, like, little seed for me, and then from then, it was, like, kinda no turning back, and I felt kind of like invincible, just not invincible, but, like, I really could do it, you
Yeah,
know? Yeah, so just did plays in high school and then went to college, and I thought I was gonna be a writer, I didn't really wanna be an actor, and I just kinda kept doing plays and comedy, and, then I just decided, like, "No, I really do think this is what I wanna do," having no idea how hard it would be, thank God, at the time,
yeah.
and then yeah, and the rest is kinda history, but, which I can or can't don't have to get into, but yeah, that was the spark, the initial spark when I was
That's beautiful.
16 or whatever.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
wonderful. I
yeah.
love that, to have the ability to have to get a spark like that, and then you just go for it and then have billions of
Yeah,
doubts, but you still go for it. It's just like it's fun and it's kind of it
yeah.
inspires me to keep going. That's one thing at least. So I'm just happy
Oh,
that you
good.
that you
Yeah,
got there. But speaking of acting and actors, there's a lot going on right now with actors and there's like the strike
yeah.
happening with actors and
Mhm.
it's crazy situation. What do you think? Why do you think it's like? I know a lot of people. For some people, it might not be like, why do we care? But like, why do you think right now for everybody it's important?
Yeah, well, I mean, for everybody, it's important because, I mean, we as a society, as human beings, we thrive on art,
Yeah,
just, in the most simple terms, and the amount of content that we consume and, the films and video games
yeah,
and TV, without actors and writers, since they got this ball really rolling,
yeah,
we don't have that,
mhm,
and, like, can you imagine a world like, it gives me goosebumps and
yeah,
puts a pit in my stomach thinking about a world without that, and, so, I people should be paid what they're worth, and, it feels like there's just been this increasingly larger and larger gap
yeah,
between these corporate, people up here, these streaming giants, whatever, and, the people who are
we're
making the
actually
stuff
doing this
happen.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, and so, the disconnect has been, growing and growing, and so now everybody's doing something about it, and I think it's overdue, but it's also yeah, it's so tricky, so,
mhm,
yeah, when do you do it? How do you do it? So I give all the credit to, the leadership and the bravery of because
yeah,
as artists, we're so used to being unemployed
yeah,
too, so it's like, "All right, let's voluntarily be unemployed for however long it takes to get what we deserve."
yeah, and that's right.
That's scary, and it's admirable.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it's wonderful. I'm happy that it's going like this. Not happy that people are unemployed, but I'm happy that people are choosing to be or doing this movement to help not only themselves but the future as well. It's very important because obviously it makes sense. Like without the actors and writers, it's impossible to create something that
yeah,
we all consume on a regular basis. So I'm just happy that all of
yeah.
this is happening. I'm just happy that hopefully the situation can be fixed and something can positive can come out of this because it's weird that we are in this state.
I know, and it sort of seems like it all kinda, um, it came to a head
Yeah.
so quickly, even though it's sort of been slowly, evolving,
Hmm.
kind of under our noses,
Yeah.
and, everybody like, I feel like this is giving normal people who are not in this industry kind of an idea of,
Hmm.
like, what we're up
Yeah.
against, kind of as a society too. It's like it feels like a microcosm, like AI
Hmm.
taking over, but, like, it does apply to everybody, and, obviously, just speaking personally, I won't go down the rabbit hole too much, but, AI it's terrifying as an artist, like, having a synthetic voice replace
Hmm.
my voice is just like again, goosebumps, pit in my stomach, and you sorta have to just be better and just keep the awareness going and strikes like this, and people paying attention and people like you helping to spread that message to people who might not be aware, is really important.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
thanks. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to thank me at all. It's just like I'm happy that people get to know more. And I know you didn't want to get much into it. I know AI. I cannot stress. A lot of people especially actors and writers, both, even artists and musicians as well, I believe, who are scared of AI, like the things it's evolving into and how it is now present. And to some extent, I see the use of it. To some extent, I see the help that we can take from it, but to some extent I don't
Mhm.
see
Yeah.
where people are using it, like how they're using it. That I feel like is
Yeah.
the worst part, where they are not using it
Yeah.
to help themselves a little bit, to support maybe, but they're using it to
Mhm.
to use it, like this is replace it with AI, which is the wrong thing.
Yeah, I think there's yeah, it's ethical AI. Yeah, it's one thing if AI is helping, the healthcare industry and helping doctors and nurses do their jobs more efficiently.
Yeah.
It's not replacing them, but it's a tool.
Yeah, a tool.
In art I'm sorry, I just don't see where it helps anybody. It's not assisting us. I mean, really, yeah, maybe you can write your resume a little faster or something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, I know that's probably gonna be a controversial thing to say, but I just when a human can do it and do it with a soul, why would you opt for the soulless robot to make your, you know, animation, your video game, even your corporate video, whatever. Again, I'm really biased because,
Of course.
I love what I do, and I think
100%.
voice actors are amazing. But yeah, yeah, there's using AI to our advantage, and then there's letting AI take advantage of us, and that's, I think, yeah, where we're at. We're like in between those two things where we're kind of doing both.
Yeah.
We're kind of in both camps, and so we need to push back against the letting AI take us over.
I'm a big fan of video games, and I just love playing video games, like, for a really long time. I've been playing games over and over again. My mom was very a
Yeah.
little bit terrified about that, but like I've been playing that for a long time. And do you remember like the first game that you ever booked, whenever you took the job or took the role of voice acting?
Oh my gosh, the first game I ever booked, yes, it was called Blue Planet: War in Heaven, and
Oh,
I played this character named Karen, and I think it was a tiny game, like, I can't even tell you, what, like, platform it was on, it was probably just a PC game, yeah, and, this was probably 15 years ago. I mean, this was yeah, it's a while
that was a
back.
while
I
back.
had
Yeah.
no idea what I was doing, no idea, whatsoever, but I was like, "Yes, this is like I've made it. This is it," you know? I was so stoked. Yeah, but I mean, most of my video game career has been, little just, little smaller games,
Yeah.
and, Oxenfree, The Evil Within 2, Wasteland 3,
Oh yeah.
I have another game coming out soon, Stargate Timekeepers, I'm the lead character in that. These are like, yeah, slightly bigger
Yeah.
games, slightly, much bigger games, at least for me and more artistically, I
Absolutely.
guess more to dig into, so yeah, yeah,
I love that.
but yeah, Blue Planet War in Heaven. I don't know
Wow.
how that just came to me, I'm like, that's a mouthful.
That's a mouthful. Yeah. I'm surprised that you remember it. I would not.
Yeah,
My memory is not good.
yeah. Yeah, no, I'm, like, somehow picturing my IMDb page on, like, the very the early years
Yeah.
and it being really sparse with some random stuff, and that was one. But, I enjoyed it, so thank you, Blue Planet people, wherever you are.
Wherever you are, yes.
Wherever you
Oh
are.
my god! But that's amazing. As you mentioned so many games that I played Evil Within 2, but it was a very interesting one. I really enjoyed it. But Oxenfree is a game that, and again, I'm a big fan of supernatural and horror and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
I immediately
yeah,
went with Oxenfree when the first game came out. I was like, oh, this is great. And so
yeah.
second game was so exciting. So how did you get yourself into Oxenfree 2?
You mean get the job or,
Yeah, get
like,
the
get
job.
into the headspace? Oh, I had the wonderful good fortune of working with Night School Studio, the developer, on, Next Stop Nowhere,
Oh,
which was, an Apple game,
yeah.
um, back in, t 2018, I think, 2018, and it was so cute, I loved it, I had so much fun, it was like a space adventure, game, and, yeah, and I just auditioned for that, through, like, a casting website, before and night school was still like, I think they'd done basically After Party, Oxenfree, and, like, a couple other things, but they were still a pretty small outfit,
Mm.
and, so I auditioned for that, got that, we recorded it, super fun, and then got, like, a call in 20 beginning of 2020, I think, about Oxenfree 2, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know they were doing an Oxenfree 2. I didn't it was just like, "Hey, we're thinking about you for this role," and I didn't know what role it was. Had no idea. And I literally so I sent a read in, I was like, "Of course, whatever, say jump and I'll jump." Sent a read in and they're like, "Great, like, we want you to do it." And I don't think I knew what the game was until, like, a couple sessions in,
Oh, wow.
like, and then I was like, "Oh my god, it's Oxenfree 2!" Like, Oxenfree was such a darling, people
Yeah.
loved it, it was such a hit, and so I was stoked. And I was like, "Oh, and I guess I'm the lead too, that's cool. Alright, I didn't know that either." So, yeah, I went in with very little information, but because I just love their team. They're such great people, they're
Yeah.
so creative and just nice people, so it was a joy to work with. I would have done 2 lines for them if they asked me to, like so
Wow.
that was how it came to be. Yeah,
That's so cool. I really love the first game, and I was like, ever since they announced the second game, I was like, wow, this making a second game is so cool. I would get because
yeah,
the first game reminded me of, and it's funny because the first game reminded me of a little bit about Stranger Things, and the both came out
yeah,
in the same year. So I was like, oh, this is coincidental, but I really, it
yeah,
was
yeah.
really fun. So Riley, the character you play, it's just like, I really, as I said before, I really got into it because of your voice. So your voice was very, cool, and I was like, oh, this, I'm gonna immediately get into this. This is great. So how did you like, get yourself into that role, and what do you think about like Riley as a character itself?
Yeah, I mean, my voice, I feel like, is Riley's voice. I
Mm.
think that's part of the reason they cast me. So as far as just vocal quality,
Yeah,
we are the same.
yeah.
Um, but I do feel like, um, again, it was one of those things where I really feel like they wrote her for me, and because it's all their, like, little mannerisms, and I mean, they let me kinda be a little bit creative with, like, ums and ahs and, like,
Uh-huh.
making it my own a little bit, but, I just I I think with any character, it's like, "Alright, what are we similar? How are we similar?"
Yeah.
And then worry about the differences kinda later. Like, I wouldn't respond to this way. But so first I think it was just like how am I? How am I presenting? And my speed and tone and attitude, those were all sort of my kind of primary things. Because we're also kind of working a little bit in a vacuum.
Hmm.
I just get lines. I don't have somebody to work off
Yeah.
of. I'm recording lines in a vacuum. Like I get context from the director, and that's kinda it. So, they kinda assist me with, like, intention and things like that, which is important because it's like, "No, no, you're actually angry in this scene." It's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, okay." Um, but, yeah, as far as, her, like, we both kinda have I'll put it this way, I like to say my alter ego is, like, really ballsy and snarky and witty. Me, Liz, I feel like I'm such a wimp, and I'm, like, not I'm not, like, I can't be a straight shooter. Um, and Riley is, like, kinda my hero in that regard, so
Wow.
it was just like, "Yay." I'm kind of she was like this aspirational, being for me, so, I kinda just, like, latched onto that and ran with it, and I didn't overthink it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, I kinda let the instinctual, side of me take over a little bit with, how she was respond because I had the opportunity to respond,
Mm.
as you know, it's branching dialogue
Yeah.
several different ways in every, scene, so I got to, like, do everything. Yeah, so I don't know, that's kind of a roundabout way of describing it, but, yeah, you kinda hear it in your head,
Yeah.
and then hopefully, it, emanates.
Absolutely did.
Um
I Great. I just loved it. That's the thing about this game, and both these games have this. Like, I love listening to these conversations that keep on happening between the lead character and the
Yeah,
supporting character. So you and Jacob, your character and
Mhm.
Jacob. I love the conversations. It was really fun listening to, because that's, I feel like that's the bread and butter of this game. The conversation, just cool to listen
Yeah.
to, know what their stories are and how they get to know each other and bond with each other. So, like, what do you think about this relationship itself between Riley and Jacob that forms or develops over the game? Because I really loved their relationship, and I was like, oh, that's cool. They're friends. I just like that.
Yeah. I know, it just, again, I was recording in a vacuum, and I actually just met Joe, who voiced Jacob for the first time this past week in person, and it was like it was amazing, hearing our dialogue in the game, like, seamlessly cut, and I just felt like, like, watching it, it's like, "Oh my god, I feel like I'm like, yeah, we were there." Um, I love the sort of purity of it. It's just it's it's, it's kinda one of those friendships where it does have kind of an arc, and it grows and um, yeah, it's kind of got its ups and downs like everything, but it's just authentic and true and not, doesn't try too hard, I guess, you know? I think that's really the one thing that resonated with me the most is it just felt so natural and, um, like it was cut out of a story, and, yeah, I love the meaning of it and, again, kinda what they mean to each other, and, yeah, the fact that they kinda knew each other in high school, but, 'cause you revisit those people, and most of the time, we don't really see our high school people ever again, and so to kinda have this little next chapter, is cool, so, but, yeah, I think just, like, the purity of it and just, like, the simplicity of it and the authenticity, I totally dug, so they wrote it so well.
They wrote it very well.
Again, they did.
I
Yeah.
love that. You said like simplicity, and I love that. It's so, and it felt like, as you mentioned before, like it felt like you were actually having conversation because it was cut so well. Where
Yeah.
when there were dialogue choices, and if I select one, and Jacob is telling something, and it's as if, like, if you want to say something and somebody's talking, if you want to say something, you say it. The person
Yeah.
immediately sort of stops, or it happened that way, because usually in games sometimes what happens is, like, when the other person is saying a dialogue and you say, similar games where you have dialogues options and you select one, and but the other person is
Yeah.
still saying, and then it continues his words a little bit and your words also coming up, like, what? So, like, this
Yeah.
way it felt like more real, so I love that. And it's just, I really love the
Yeah.
storytelling here. It was so fun. I, like, I was just like walking around, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And I wanted Jacob to speak. I don't know, I kind of, relate to Jacob in some way for some reason,
Yeah.
where I'm like, I know that's me. Like, when I talk to someone, I will probably not talk so much, but when I get to talk, I talk. And if they respond, I talk more. So, like, I love, like, I was like, I'm awkward as hell, so I'm like, that's
Yeah.
me. I
Yeah,
love-
yeah, I mean, like, I kind of feel like, when I was recording it, sometimes I'm like, "Oh, Riley, just be a little nicer. He's so ni," even though Riley's heart is in the right place and she's
yeah.
a good person, and depending on, the ending that you choose for the game, I know the one I chose, it's like, "No, I'm putting you please go be with your dog and, like, live your life and be happy," she kinda hides behind this, like, sort of sarcastic,
Yeah.
snarky veneer and deflects with comedy and stuff like that, and sometimes I'm just like, "Oh, I hope I didn't hurt his feelings," you know? But, he just, like, rolls with it, and
Yeah.
I think that that's very natural for, like, a real relationship. It's like, they kinda figure out each other's quirks, so,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
I actually
I'm glad
saw
you related, though.
very much. I was like, wow, this is too much. That's too real. But I did see your video that you got some really cool gifts from them, from the
Oh,
studio. You got like a
yeah.
cool bag and a radio, which was like, oh, that's cool. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
lovely.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was really nice of them, and I'm such a spaz, like, I'm like, "How do I" like, I really just wanted to open everything
Yeah.
in the moment because I don't like canned, like, prepared
Yeah.
things, and
Me
it's like,
too.
I literally could not figure out how to so that's another big difference between me and Riley
Yeah.
is she's like, "Yep, doot, 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 like, got this." She's a little more technologically sound. I can't even turn a radio on. So, anyway, but yeah, night school, they're so generous and nice, and it was just fun. Like, I wore my hat today.
That's so
So
cool.
I'm into it. I'm totally into it.
I love that radio. To be honest, if I would have gotten that radio, I would probably not be able to do, like, I would not be able to work things out.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the? How do you do this? So
Yeah.
you're fine. You're not the only one here. I had so many times when I'm
Okay.
like, it's so
Yep.
simple. And I remember,
I
like,
know.
I got a phone, and yeah, it was probably a phone. I was like, no, it's not turning on. What happened? And my dad is
Yeah.
like, did you charge it? I'm like,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, of course. I'll be right back.
so yeah, it happened.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The story of my life. Yep.
Story of my life too.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yeah.
But when you like got this role of Riley, and then you got to know, like, oh, I'm gonna play this character, and probably you got some description of how this character is. What was like kind of going through your mind on, like, okay, how should I voice this character, and how should I present it? Like, was there a lot of challenges at that point in time where, or you have to think too much, or was it like you trusted your process and you're like, okay, you're gonna do this and that? Like, what was kind of your process involved in this?
Yeah, I think, I don't know why I started with yeah. I I think it was a little bit of both. So, yes, I trusted my process because you have to,
Mhm.
because if you don't, then you're not gonna sound
Yeah,
authentic, it's not gonna sound good. And I trusted in my process, and I also trusted, my writers and directors on the other end of the line that they were gonna direct me if I was just going off the rails or, like, it wasn't right or, so I think in that sense, that's where the collaboration really comes in.
hmm,
I you know, with any character, I wanna bring as much of myself to it as I can, um, even if it's a crazy old witch character or no matter how far out there it is, like, you gotta have you in it,
yeah,
otherwise it's just not gonna ring
hmm,
true in any way. And so with Riley, I mean, that was, like because we were similar in age, I kinda look like her a little bit, there is a lot of overlap. I really just, I just sorta made the choice, like, I'm gonna bring as much of me to this and kind of play myself with, these added, arcs and little mannerisms
yeah,
and stuff, the glitter and just the little accessorizing as we go, and then if they say, "All right, let's add something," whatever, I'm open to it,
hmm,
so I think it's like making a choice, and then, it maybe evolves a little bit from when you start to the end too, because 'cause you're like, "Oh, I hadn't thought about this before, but
yeah,
now I'm so, but as far as just practical, voicing the character, I really just thought about it like I always think about voiceover as r like real everyday,
mm,
I never want it to sound canned. I never want it to sound rehearsed or
yeah,
planned or scripted, and again, big, kudos to them and their awesome writing because they make it so easy to sound natural and
yeah,
real. So, yeah, so I really did just dig into that and focus on that part and just kinda let it flow.
mm.
And you're also doing so many lines, like,
I can imagine.
like yeah, I mean, like, I don't think people realize video games and this is only a 10-hour how God, I'm trying to think. It
Seems
could be long. I guess it could be longer, but it's on the shorter side.
yeah.
Um, versus like 30 or 40
Oh
hours.
man.
Voice actors have to say so much stuff, so you just wanna keep it going and keep that natural rhythm, and it gets easier, I think. I think when you first start sorry, I'm g rambling, but, like, when you first
It's okay.
start, you're just like, I need to present this line, perfectly," and then you're like, "Ah, let that go.
Yeah.
Just, like, loosen
Yeah.
up," and yeah, so it gets easier, but anyway, to answer your question, just being a person and then adding the little stuff, as we go, as things reveal themselves, 'cause I was learning about Riley as I went because I don't get scripts in advance,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
there's that part too, and, incorporating it seamlessly and not overthinking it, and yeah,
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah, that's true. The part where I struggle the most is overthinking, which keeps on happening all the time. So
Totally.
I'm like,
Yep.
oh gosh, this is not
Yeah,
working, of course, and all that, and then it
totally.
goes up all the way. I'm like, this is great until until it's too late. Few days later, I'm like, what are you doing? So yeah,
Yeah.
it happens all
Hey,
the
you
time.
know what? It's easier for them to, like, pull you back, like, they can pull you back, it's
Yeah,
fine.
that's
Yeah,
good. Good for you
but yeah,
guys. At least you guys are able to be pulled back. I'm
yeah,
happy that.
'cause you can't create, like, you can't create what's not there
Yeah,
versus if you put it all out there, you can always kinda pull it back and hone it a little bit.
exactly.
And yeah, I think, like you said, I'm an overthinker too, and the less I overthink, the better it is.
Oh,
Just,
absolutely.
you know?
Something
Yeah,
that I
so
need to keep in mind and write it down somewhere and paste it away some. But
Yeah, yeah.
I recently, literally like a few hours ago, I read an article about this game, right? It was actually talking about how Oxenfree 2 captures like the horror of parenthood. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting because you have like towards the end, you have like choice to make, and you also had another very cool thing that I also, when I was reading this article, I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty interesting. I did the same, and it's a little bit spoilerish, but it's the part where you Jacob is trying to say something, and it comes to you where you have to say something. You have three options, but the one options that I immediately my eyes set on, I forgot. I didn't even see the two options. The option
Yeah,
that I saw was I'm pregnant. I was like, I'm gonna go with that. That's the option.
yeah,
I did not. I have no memory of what the other two options were. I knew the. I'm just clicking that. That was the first left option. I was like, I'm not doing it, and I wanted to know
yeah,
that story, and I just wanted to know what's going on, and because there were visions and stuff, and then at the
yeah,
end you have this choice, either you or Olivia or Jacob, and I was so happy that I'm not picking Jacob. But I was like, so I was like,
yeah,
I have to. I immediately went, not immediately. I took a long time, but I went with Riley because I thought since she knows, like, okay, the future with her son is not that great, probably she
mhm,
would not. I thought more realistically as much as I could, but like I think that article kind of like at the very end says like, whether you bring a life into the world or not, it's okay to be scared. And I was like, yeah,
yeah,
that's very true, and because it's
yeah.
all related to her being scared of her life in the future with her son.
Absolutely. Yeah, oh god, I get goosebumps just thinking about it, and it's funny, I also chose the same one as you. I sacrificed myself, so,
It's the
I just
be
want everybody
the
to know that. That's the kind of person I am. But it, like, I actually, like, I got, like, a little choked up about it because, it's like, yeah, Jacob, I was actually more concerned about, Athena and Jacob getting back to his dog.
Oh yeah,
But I'm like, Olivia, with Olivia, it's not a parent, it's not like a parental relationship that they have, but there is a sort of, a bit of a dynamic with I'm older than you without being condescending,
yeah,
and I'm not gonna sacrifice this kid who's just she's traumatized because her parents are dead, and,
yeah.
like, I can't blame her for that. She's not really a villain in that way,
Hmm.
even though she does bad things and she's
Yeah.
misguided.
Mm.
Anyway, the part where Riley sees her future with Rex and it's not great, it really does break my heart
Yeah.
because, it's I mean, just I won't get into my own stuff, but, like, yeah, I'm terrified enough of, like, my own future. Just where am I gonna be in 5, 10 years? I don't know.
Yeah.
None of us do. And then maybe it's the healthier thing is not to overthink it, but I overthink it, and,
Yep.
that's terrifying. And then to add, being a parent on top of that, like, it kind of overwhelms me. I'm not a
Mm.
parent, but I guess maybe that's a similar thing I have with Riley is the fact that I think about it and I'm like, maybe not, and it absolutely terrifies me
Mm.
because, yes, if you bring a life into this world, it's the biggest
Oh
responsibility you
yeah.
could ever have. And, so I totally yeah, I mean, I relate and don't relate because I don't have a kid, but, the just the idea of that and imagining that, is just it's petrifying.
Oh yeah.
And,
I'm with you.
yeah, hats off to all the parents out there because I would be a mess.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
It's
yeah,
a thought that I don't know why it goes through my mind, but like it's a weird thing to like think about like, oh gosh, this is too much. Maybe I should stop thinking about that, think about something else. But
Exactly. No, I know. I know. I
I
know.
when I saw like the choice was between I saw it this way. The choice is between Riley and Olivia, not Jacob. So I thought of these two people only, and I was like, Olivia has so much to live. Obviously she
Yeah.
is like misguided, and she obviously lost her parents, but she's a kid. She has so much to live, and at the same time, I was like, Riley's future is kind of like not the very best with Rex, but like but there's still some good stuff. You can still have there's some good
Yes.
moments. You
Yes.
can still have those. And I was like so much
Yes.
conflicted. I'm like, what is this? This is
Mhm.
not supposed to be. And so I somehow just chose with Riley. I was like, maybe I'm
I know.
okay. I think it's an okay reason to go with.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I know, yeah, because if I'm gonna live this moment over and over again, and it's an okay moment
Yeah.
into for the rest of eternity, yeah, I kind of also took some solace in that as well. Like it's oh god, it's yeah, it does break my heart a little bit.
Yeah. Games are
But
great.
again, yeah, I mean, and again, I think that's another like one of the again, the brilliance of the game is it's not all cut and dry. There's
Yeah.
always a sacrifice somewhere. It's you're always compromising something. You're always hurting
Yeah.
someone, it's just never perfect. And I think coming to terms with that is really it seems so obvious, but it's also so hard. Like,
Yeah.
why can't it all be perfect? And everybody can relate. Again, the relatability of the game and the obstacles that these characters are up against are so just poignant and real and, applied to everybody. So I
Yeah.
think that's so good.
Yeah. That's right.
It's so good. Yeah.
um it's crazy. I love the world of Oxenfree. I shouldn't be loving the world, but I love it's just it's fun to have like ghosts and supernatural, and I love that world. And I watch
Yeah.
videos, and I don't know why I do that, but like it's fun to watch and get into that. But if you yourself were in a world of Oxenfree, and if
Mm.
you could use the radio, I know there was like time tears, as I call it, where some tears, then
Yeah.
use the radio to go back in time. But if you could use the radio and go back in time at all, like, is there a time that you would go back to?
Um, oh, man. Well, I'd probably, oh god, I might cry. I'd probably go back to, um yeah, this is completely, like, like, narrow-minded, but I would go back to when I was a kid, um, on vacation with my whole family, and my grandparents are alive and there, and, yeah, I think I would do that just for, like, an afternoon. Yeah.
That's
It was the some of the best memories ever. I don't need to go back to Roman times or, like, World War II or yeah,
yeah,
I don't need to, I just yeah, those personal moments, I think. Um, and yeah, not necessarily I wouldn't go back to a time where, like, I could have made a different choice because I
hmm,
don't even though this game deals with regret a lot and kind of, should I have done this or if
yeah,
I'd made this choice differently, I can say in my own life, like, I'm glad everything worked out how it was supposed to. So I don't
hmm.
have that. I think I would go back to a time that was just good and just remember it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I would. That's beautiful. I
I
love
didn't
that.
know this was gonna be like this today.
Oh gosh, what did I come into?
What
Uh,
did you do? Yeah.
it's great. People cry here. No, I'm just kidding. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. No.
it's cool. I think about like going back in time all the time, even though my childhood was okay, I guess. But like, I mean, it's
Yeah,
cool to go. It's cool concept to go back in time and do something, and relive a moment
totally.
that you really loved. It's fun to
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about.
But I mean, also, yeah, it's such an open-ended question, and I feel like it does when you pose that question to anybody, it says a lot, like, if it's just sort of a, "I just want to experience a day on the battlefield of, the I don't know, 100 Years' War," or something like that. It's like, why would you do
Why would
that?
you do
Or
that? Like,
why would you do that?
what
Yeah,
is?
or yeah, like historical events, I don't need to
Yeah,
be there.
I'm,
No,
I'm
I'd rather
glad I'm
just
not there. I'm like, yeah, this
yeah,
good
I'm good.
happened. It's over.
Yeah,
I'm happy to
yeah,
be here.
I don't need to catch the plague.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. Oh gosh. But
Anyway, but yeah.
were you ever like a fan of kind of like supernatural or sci-fi stuff?
Yeah, I do enjoy it's funny, I never growing up, I never really liked, like, horror films and stuff like that until, um, kind of like the Conjuring movies came
Ah.
around and, like, this idea of, it's not like a monster,
Mhm.
it's something that we can't identify and is just this nebulous thing that does it exist? Does it
Mhm.
not? Is spiritual, is energy, is it real?
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated constantly by that question that nobody can answer, and, I love when films and games and TV, like, do it well and
Yeah.
can explore it without being just a typical, you know, um, horror film or a monster movie. So, I've definitely and my husband is actually a huge horror buff.
Oof.
So, ever since, but, like, good horror films,
Mhm.
well, good and bad, but
There's
he
always
we
that.
only watch the good yeah, yeah, yeah. But, like, and I should say, really, yeah, horror does not necessarily mean, or supernatural does not necessarily mean horror. I
Yeah.
should actually clarify that. Sorry, that was a sweeping generalization.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think I think I do think it's a really interesting genre that does kinda cross over,
Mm.
and it's both like you said, it can be sci-fi or it can be more spiritual and
Yeah.
kind of inner, world, inner life. So it's cool. I mean, it's just, and tricky to do well.
Oh,
So
definitely.
yeah. Yeah. So, yes, I enjoyed a lot. I can't tell you what my favorite film is of late though. The last, like, really good one I saw.
But do you
I'd have
remember
to think about that.
like a movie that really scared you? Like I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna watch that, or that's something I will not remember." Is that a movie like that?
Um okay, and that doesn't include just being, like, grossed out, like, just
Hmm.
bad, um, gosh, what am I thinking of? You know what? The last movie that just scared the crap out of me was probably Blair Witch.
Oh,
I remember, like,
wow.
when that came out because that was the first one where it was
Mm.
like, "Is this real?"
Yeah.
And I just don't think they caught lightning in a bottle,
Mm.
and
Exactly.
since then, even though people have done it well, you know, some of
Chill
the
out.
Blumhouse stuff the
Oh,
early Blumhouse stuff's really good, and, I just that movie terrified me, Blair
yeah.
Witch. So, yeah, I honestly, I've never yeah, that was probably the last one where I was like, "Oh my god," like, it just yeah.
Yeah, I was like, after watching that movie, I
Yeah.
was sure that I'm not gonna go to the woods and with anyone at night.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
why would
yeah,
you do that? Like it's so yeah, it was such. There's something in that movie that is too real. It's not supposed to be made
yeah,
like that. But I really
yeah,
enjoy. I really enjoy horror movies. I tend to
yeah,
watch like I haven't watched a lot of horror movies recently, so I was like, I'm missing something. And so I went back to search some good horror movies and I watched a couple. But yeah, it's just fun because for me as a kid, I didn't like horror. We had some
yeah,
movies that my sister would watch. It was actually not scary, and I would be scared even for movies that are not
yeah,
scary. And my
yeah,
my dad is like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I can't watch." And so the first thing that I got me out of that was watching this series called Supernatural. And so
oh,
that
yeah, yeah,
that got me out of it because the first season was a little spooky, and so I got watched that. I was like, this is not that spooky, and then from there I spiraled
yeah.
into, and my mom is like, why do you watch horror movies at night? I was like, I don't know, I can't.
I don't know.
I just
Yeah,
have to.
but but it's true. That's why they continue and they
They
continue to do
continue.
well because we love to be scared and, or, mystified or whatever
Mystified, yeah.
the word is, yeah, and, like, the unknown,
Absolutely.
it's forever fascinating, it's so funny, like you said, like, movies that weren't actually scary, like, I remember being a little kid, and I think was it Ghostbusters 2? And there was this scene I think it was Ghostbusters 2, where, like, there's a baby cart that this woman's, like,
Oh yeah.
driving, and she lets go. I was freaking out. I was, like, scarred. I was like, "Oh my god." Like, I was so scared, like and
No
it's not
way.
scary
Yeah,
at all,
it's
but
not.
when you're young, you don't get it.
When you're young,
So,
yeah. When
anyway.
you're young, anything scares you. Like I remember like for some movie, I don't even remember the name. It was like this lights are out or something, and we see a face. It was very old. I see a face for a flash, and I was scared by that. I'm like, mom is like, what? He's what happening? So like it was
Yeah.
crazy. As a kid, you would get scared by anything. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
glad
yeah.
that's over.
I know, it's seriously, right? I know. I don't miss those days at all.
But yeah, speaking of like ghosts and stuff, you and monsters,
Yeah.
you were an Evil Within too. You played Myra, and that was pretty
Yeah.
interesting. I love like your
Yeah.
character became a monster, which was
Yeah.
very cool. So what was that experience like? You know, voice playing that character in Evil Within.
Yeah, that was so fun, and I did it during a very, like, transitional time in my life, so it was very cathartic. I just had a bad breakup, and I was like I was, like, all over the place, and it was just such a good character to do at the time. Because I mean, she's screaming and
Mm. Oh,
crying and yes, I mean, the amount of, like, efforts and, like yeah,
yeah.
my voice was pretty done by the end of that game. But it was the first time I ever got to really go into a studio for a game, because I think all the other games I'd done, I just recorded in my home
Hmm.
studio or closet, because those were early, early games.
Yeah.
But that was, like, so fun, and I had to watch, like, mocap and, like, syncing up to that. I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting, and it just felt like I felt the stakes of it a little bit higher, so,
Hmm.
um, I but as far as the character went, I loved how emotional it
Oh
was,
yeah.
and it just gave you so much to kinda chew on, and, I loved it. Yeah, I had a blast, and, yeah, the sort of, like, blobby, like,
Yeah.
crazy I loved it. I just
Yeah.
loved it. I
I
love
was
playing bad characters, yeah, yeah.
it's so fun. It's like I love to see like every or not every, but like a lot of voice actors or even actors in general, like they love playing something negative, and it's like because there's so
Totally.
much challenging and there's so much
Yeah.
energy in it. So I love that.
Yes.
When I see a villain, a good villain, I'm like, I am more interested in you than that hero which is
I
you
know.
know, it's like I love that. It's so cool. And
And
that
yeah, and how do you give it a little bit of dimension where it's not just like, "Arr," the whole
yeah.
time. It's not just one note. And like Myra, she was a good person
Hmm.
she was good once, so I love those kind of characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Lovely.
true.
I love that. Do you know mention you went to a studio for this one and there was mocap and you had to sync to it. You know,
Yeah.
what do you compare that experience with Oxenfree where you could do recording in here? Was there more
Yeah.
challenges involved in Evil Within than Oxenfree, I believe?
Um I would actually say for me, it's actually easier to go to a studio because there's an engineer there. They're
Hmm.
doing everything. With once like let's see, with Next Stop Nowhere, which was the first game I did with Night School Studio, and then COVID hit.
Hmm.
So we finished it. I think. Sorry, we finished that before COVID. We, started, Oxenfree 2 during COVID,
Yeah.
so we had to be remote anyway, and so it was a real learning curve for me, even though I was used to recording myself
Hmm.
and, keeping track like, with this, it's like, there's branching dialogue, you have to split files and just, like, stay on top of everything, so it's both performing and kind of engineering at the same time,
Yeah.
and that's exhausting. I kinda like it now, I'm glad I went through it and, like, can do it, but it was a little bit of you really have to be self-sufficient. You gotta make sure you got great internet and a
Yeah.
quiet space, and, it's like, great, it's like the landscapers are blowing their things right outside
Yeah.
the door, so you're, like, always grappling with something, so that's always the kinda tricky part about, home
Hmm.
studios, even if, like, I have a double-walled, soundproof something will always come through, like,
Yeah.
no matter what, somebody opens the garage, everything so it's always something, but I'm like I feel ready for anything, like, I can roll with it, I know how to handle it, knock on wood,
Absolutely.
so as far as that, just, yeah, being more self-sufficient, kinda having to do everything, was an adjustment at first, and then
Yeah.
it was fine.
That's
Yeah.
that's cool. I mean, you know, you had to sync with in this one, Evil Within. You had to sync with the mocap. Do you have actually
Mhm.
interest of like doing the whole mocap thing because like it's all shifting towards there nowadays. Like it's all mocap, everything like full performance. Is that something that interests
Oh,
you?
yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah, and, like, again, having been an athlete before, just the especially if it's a real character, I
Mhm.
I feel like that would and really playing with a character's movement,
Yeah.
would be a blast, and having all the little foam balls all over you. Um, just to
That's
get a
the
picture in that suit really is all I care about. Yeah, I think it would be really fun, and, I mean, how much more, like, into a character could you get? It's like you're the voice and yeah,
yeah, your whole
that
thing.
would be
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, yes, I'm totally, totally down for that.
Yeah, I'm loving how like
Yeah,
games nowadays are like more into that where it's not just your voice, but
yeah,
it's like whole like you have to perform through it. Like it's something you have to
yeah,
completely, absolutely be that character and just move and all that stuff. There's also stunts, which I was
yeah.
like, wow, there's like stunts involved here too. So it's crazy how games have changed in this way, and I love that. It's so cool.
Oh, I know. I know, but, like, to that point, though, I that's one of the things I do love about Oxenfree too is it's not photorealistic, it's
Mm,
art.
yeah,
It's an art
it's beautiful.
a giant art installation, it's beautiful. I just, got to meet one of the art, designers, at our little party, a wrap party or, premiere party, this past week, and she was just it was just inspiring because you're like, you went to art school and, like, you really know your stuff,
Yeah.
and it shows, like, it's a beautiful game, and, so I do think that there's a place for those, like, kind of photorealistic,
Hmm.
every sinew and, like, facial expression, like, that's cool,
Yeah.
that's really cool, and I also think that there's a place for just these pieces of art,
Absolutely.
I think, both kinda have their advantages, but, yeah, I would never rappel down a rock face like Riley would. She's like, "Yeah, great, let's do it."
Uh,
Nope, nope. That's where I would not be an effective
Find me
I'm not a
another
stunt
way.
person. Yeah, exactly. Well,
Not doing that. Yeah, you go,
not doing
Jacob.
that, no. Yeah, right behind you. Yeah,
Oh man, but yeah, motion capture, whether it's motion capture, whether it's art and all that stuff. I think video games now are in a space. At least I think it is in a space where a lot more people are getting to know because even more so now, like especially even Last of Us became a show
oh,
from the
yeah,
game. A
yeah,
lot of people, oh, Last of
yeah,
Us is a video game, and a lot of people want to try the game and they get to know how Last of Us was this way, and from there
yeah,
possibly get to know more about games. So since that is also happening, where games are sort of moving into or
yeah.
being converted into shows and stuff, do you think like it could be possible that movie stars can come and be in video games, which some of them has already happened, but do you think like more of that will happen like in the near future or something?
Yeah, I do. And like you said, I think it's already happening. Gosh, trying to remember the game with is it with Daisy Ridley and it's a really
Yes.
simple game.
I know, I was going to say that
Yeah,
actually.
you know what I'm talking about.
Daisy
I
Ridley,
can't think of the
William
name of.
Dafoe, and
Yes, yes.
I'm forgetting
Uh-huh.
another one. 12 Minutes
Yeah.
is the name of the game. Yeah.
Yes, and it's a very simple I
Yeah.
didn't play it, but, just saw some of it, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." The protective part of me is like, "Just go to your movies, it's fine, we got this." But like you said, I mean, I if, the mocap and the likeness and all of that, that's a real selling point,
Mm.
and so if, they can have, I'll just say, throw Brad Pitt out there. If Brad Pitt wants to be in, The Last of Us 28, then I'm sure,
Yes.
like, they would pay. So, yeah, I think I'm just kind of used to, like, in the voiceover space, celebrities swept in and took all the commercial work,
Yeah. Yeah.
the big brands and stuff. So, it's kinda like, yeah, you just sorta you expect it and you roll with it and just keep doing your thing and not get mad. Don't get mad about it. Yeah, yeah, but I think you're right. I mean, it's the power of games and the reach of games and the popularity is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It has
unbelievable.
grown
I had
crazy.
no idea until I started voicing them, and everyone's like, "Yeah, this is like a thing.
Yeah.
People are this is a thing," and so it's like, "Oh, yeah, it really is."
Yeah.
Um 'cause I always just kinda dabbled. I wasn't like a consistent gamer by any means, and now it's like, yeah, this is a really exciting space. So, of course celebrities are gonna come in.
Of course,
Yeah,
these bad.
yeah.
I'm just
Of
kidding.
course they are. Yeah.
But
Yeah, but
you tell you like you're playing games and stuff, but not so much. But what games are you like? Did you currently? I believe you played Oxenfree 2. Did you play anything else recently, or did you play any other games that you remember?
Let's see. Gosh, I mean, to be honest with you, over the last few years, I've sort of fallen off. So I've never played anything really consistently. Let's see. I did a very short little series on it's just I made some little stupid YouTube videos. But because I'm not a good gamer. I'm not good. I'm not good at all.
This
And so
is
it's just called Liz Plays Games, and it just basically was me and the dumpster fire of my attempts at gaming, and, like, I played, like, Doom, Brawl Star I was the voice of Piper in
oh
Brawl
yeah,
Stars, so, a lot of people were like, "Oh, play" play this, and I'm like, "What is happening right now?" Like, this is crazy. Different, totally different
completely different. Yeah,
bag of yeah, totally. What else did I play? Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm a little old school, like, every Christmas, we always play GoldenEye
oh wow,
and Mario Kart,
that's
like, those
wonderful.
are just, like, our yeah, those are our, like, go-tos, and, oh my gosh, gosh, I'm totally, like I just I love the old school games because I mean, that's what I grew up yeah,
Yeah,
Donkey Kong
of
and
course.
Mario yeah, like, all that stuff, so I'm really old school in that way. Yeah, so to answer your question, I haven't really played anything consistently. Obviously, got to play Oxenfree 2,
Mhm.
but it's been a minute, so I'm gonna get back to it, you guys. Don't worry.
Oh no,
I'll have
that's
more to report later.
more to come soon. I really
Yeah.
love the retro, the old school games. I remember playing
Mhm.
Mario, and I think my dad allowed me to play an hour every day. So I was like, yes. And so I got to play.
Yeah,
I got to play
I love
Mario.
it.
Super Mario Brothers was so fun, and Contra and all that stuff. So I love playing that. But yeah, I've been playing games ever since. And to be honest, nobody has to be a good gamer. I'm not good. I'm horrible, especially when it comes to like the especially a game like Brawl Stars. I can't even touch that game. So because I'm so
Oh my
bad,
god.
I can't.
I know.
It's too
I was like,
much.
I don't even what do I do? Yeah, it's too much.
It's just too
I mean, I
much.
shouldn't say that, but yeah, I'm happy to be in it, but I you
Yeah,
guys play it, tell me how it is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But
I
yeah,
totally hear you.
I think there's a lot of other games, and I'm glad that there's games like Oxenfree too, which is very simple. You don't have to do
Exactly.
much; you just have to move around, and you have to. And the
Yeah,
controls are very simple. You just have to press one button at a time, and there's not much to do.
exactly.
So I like that. Even the game like like you also mentioned before, 12 minutes. And it's also a very simple game. You don't
Yeah,
have to do anything at all, and just a very interesting story. And so there's games like those that people can get into if they don't
yeah,
haven't known about anything about games. I can get into that, and
yeah.
obviously getting to games like Doom. Well, that's a different land, which I also can do.
Totally.
So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, we were going down the retro game
Yeah, it's
rabbit
just
hole a little bit, but yeah, yeah.
it's too
I
much.
know. But yeah, like, it's there's some simplicity, it resonates with people. That's why these games are still around and why they remain popular.
Yeah,
Mario Kart, like, how many
absolutely.
everybody loved everybody they just made the movie, like, it's
Exactly.
never gone away.
It's not going away.
So
Yeah.
no, no, it's not, and so, yeah, I think and when games can just stand on their interface,
Yeah.
their art and their dialogue and not be flashy and explosions and just be a story,
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Not that there isn't a place for all the RPG, right, or first no, RPG, what RP first person F
First person
FPS
shooters.
first yeah, that's what I meant is I'm like, I can do acronyms. RPG, where did that even come from?
I
Um,
don't know.
anyway,
To be really
yeah,
honest, I've been
yeah.
asking that question
It
for so long. Like, why
yeah,
RPG?
it's an industry term. Yeah. Yeah, so, I think, yeah, it just and so many more people are getting into games too.
Yeah.
It's you and me, it's little kids, it's adult like, there's no demographic there's no one demographic, it's everybody,
Yeah.
so that's awesome.
I am.
And,
I'm just a lover of story games. I just like love stories, and I'm a big fan
yeah,
of dramatic moments. So that's why, even Oxenfree, when those touching moments happen, I'm just like really looking at it
yeah,
because I really, for me, someone like me, even from movies, when I watch movies and I really want to get
yeah,
into the movie and be in that world to understand the
yeah,
feelings that I can connect, and
yeah,
that's what I do with
yeah,
games, to try to connect. And so when that happens, I enjoy the game even more. And there's so many moments
oh,
in so many games, especially in Last of Us, which has made me cry so many times.
oh
So
god, I know.
so that always happens, and that's the thing I love about games. And I don't. That's why I don't play these multiplayer games where you have to be good. And that's why I just
Right.
stay in the corner and cry about that. But like most of the times, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
play these hot, cool games, and it's just fun to know their stories. So I just love that. It's so cool.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, I'm so yeah, no, I'm glad that's great, that's really good to hear and encouraging, and I think most people are like that, you know? It's not a to come full circle and come back to the sports thing, you don't have to be good at games to enjoy them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's the experience, and that's it, you know? Make of it what you will, basically, so,
That's
yeah, I
cool.
think that's I hope they keep making more and more Oxenfrees and or expand on, you know,
Yeah,
the universe, whatever.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's important.
That would be great.
So,
But in the end, I
yeah.
would say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me
Oh,
about all of this. This has been great. I am
yeah.
again going to apologize for going too much into this whole AI thing and all that stuff,
Ah,
but
it's okay.
it's absolutely,
Yeah.
thank you so much again. This has been
Oh,
awesome
yeah.
to talk about everything Oxenfree and games and sports and getting
Yeah.
scared about with movies.
Yeah.
It's been fun. Thank you so much.
We covered everything.
There you
Yes, I'm
go.
proud of us. Thank you. No, I really appreciate you having me on. This was super fun, and I'm always happy to nerd out about all things VO and sports and everything, so thank you.
Absolutely.